A special day for Russia and the world as it marks the 79th anniversary of the Red Army's defeat of Nazism in the Great Patriotic War. Today, Russia commemorates the unwavering courage and resilience of the Soviet people, whose triumph over fascism came at the cost of colossal sacrifice and loss. We have RT correspondent Shai Bose to tell us more.
Well, welcome to Moscow on this very important day, the 9th of May. Why is it important? It's known as Victory Day in Russia. It's the day in 1945 when Russian troops stormed Berlin and victory was really achieved over the Nazis. A huge loss, a huge sacrifice was made by the Russian people and the peoples of the Soviet Union. There were 15 republics in the Soviet Union, so the sacrifice wasn't just Russia's, but of those 27 million people, 60% were essentially Russian. Over 10 million civilians, over 12 million soldiers from the Red Army gave the ultimate sacrifice to defeat this vast Nazi army that poured over the border in 1941 to attack the Soviet Union. Why is it so important? Well, it's really important here for many reasons. First of all, there's barely a family, a street, a town or a village in Russia, in modern Russia, that doesn't have a story to tell about the victory over fascism, this great patriotic war as it's known in Russia. And also because it's shaped the idea of modern Russia, the idea that Russia can stand against great enemies and defeat them. They did it against Napoleon and they've done it against the Nazis. And now Russia finds itself somewhat isolated on an international stage, but again it's fighting for what it believes to be right in Ukraine. And today over 1,000 veterans of that fighting, the war in Ukraine, the conflict, came to Moscow and marched very proudly in front of President Putin. He made a very interesting speech. He talked about strength, he talked about the motherland, he talked about how important it is to remember the veterans, many of whom are still alive, amazingly, and were present today at Red Square. So as Russians look forward, there's a renewed confidence here. There's also a sense in Russia that it's not a bad thing to be proud of your country. Remember, in the West, there's a huge media machine trying to convince young Russian people that they need to be somebody else. But right now in Russia, there's a sense that we don't need to apologize for being Russian. There's a renewed interest and pride in the great victory in 1945, and that was really on display today here in Moscow. Shai Bose for RT in Moscow.